Art, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary, can I have a roll call, please?
Definitely, Chairperson. Commissioner Flores,
Present.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Present.
Commissioner Mora, is not present, Vice Chair Ayala, called out, and Chair Carbajal.
And I'm sorry, you said Ayala is ill?
No, he just called out. He had a family emergency.
Okay. Ex parte communications, number 4. This is a section is intended to allow all officials the opportunity to reveal any disclosure regarding site visits or ex parte communications about public hearings. Are there any ex parte communications?
None here.
None here.
None myself. Public comments are now open. Anyone joining us through Zoom can use the raise hand function. If you wish to make a public comment on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda, the planning secretary will see if you have raised your hand through the Zoom application. Please note you will have 3 minutes to speak. And let the record show that Commissioner Mora is here. Planning secretary, do we have any members for the public present that wish to speak today?
I have an Ava with a raised hand via Zoom.
Hello, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry, can you guys hear me? Okay, yes, I do have questions regarding the apartments. Most important, I live right in front on Lower Street, so my house is right there. There is no parking there. There's apartments in the corner that people are already parking there. They usually like wait for one person to leave and then they park there. So my concern is there's gonna be not enough parking for these apartments that are being built. I see that you guys are building senior homes, which that we're excited about, but the family homes, you can have a family that can have 5 cars. So where are all these cars going to be parked at? Because there is no parking. Because right in front of my parking is Santa Fe Springs, and everything is red zone through from the companies. So that is my most main concern, because we have our own houses, and all the people that live there can't even park their own cars outside because there's no parking, because a lot of the apartment people already parking over here. So that is my more concern, is the whole parking structure. So maybe instead of building all these more family homes, maybe build more senior homes, because what you see with seniors is just going to be maybe 2 cars at least. And if you have all these families coming in, they're going to be at least literally like 5 cars per one household. And I have seen this. That's the reason why I'm saying about 5 cars, because we do see there's a multi-family people living in those apartments in the corner, and they all park in our side. So that's the most important thing there is. And then also too, there's a lot of new people coming in. Where all these kids are going to go to school. You guys already opened a new apartment on Santa Fe Springs right behind Carmenita. And that's a big apartment structure. So now there's going to be a new apartment structure coming in for family home, and so there's going to be more kids coming in that I know of. South Whittier District, their schools some classes are like already 28 students with 1 teacher. So and then Telecron School was closed. That's the district now. Before that used to be a school, but then it closed. So now we have a less school for the kids. So that's another concern as well, where all these kids are gonna be going to school as well. So, I mean, I just, the only thing we could be asking for is have a better parking structure, or maybe have more, we could have ours as a landlord that we are there provide, from our houses, we should be having our own parking. Like the other areas in South Whittier have as well, because I see people that have their own parking.
Thank you, Ms. Ava. Do we have any other public comments?
Mr. Perez, I know that you're in the area and this item is actually on the agenda. So when we open the public hearing for this item, you're more welcome to speak.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And also you can fill out a comment card behind you and then provide it to me as well. Thank you so much for speaking on this item.
Madam Chair, actually, no other comments have been received and no other raised hands are available via Zoom.
I will now close public comments and move to the items. We are going to item number 6, I believe. Moving that forward. It's okay.
Madam Chair, it's going to be item 9. We're going to just rearrange it really quickly. My apologies.
I'll go forward, which is the Parkway tree removal appeal decision. Resident request for removal of Parkway tree at 10408 Ridley Road. I would like to call upon Interim Director of Public Works, Yvette Karen. Please present item number now 6. Are there any questions? We'll do that after. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I am on my 3-month anniversary here of being with the city, so I'm trying to get up to speed on many items. I put together a little presentation that provides some historical context as well as the basis of the recommendation that's coming from Public Works. So I will run through this presentation. So this evening's request is an appeal of the Parkway tree removal decision for 10408 Ridley Road. Next slide, please. To provide some contextual history, I was provided with 4 different pieces of correspondence leading up to tonight's meeting. The first piece of correspondence was back on May 3rd, 2018, where the resident requested a tree removal request, stating that it was causing damage to the sidewalk and roots were damaging the sewer lines. On June 7th, 2018, the city issued a letter denying the request for the Parkway tree removal, which I can go into some of those details if you would like to. On February 1st of 2023, the resident submitted their second request to have the Parkway tree removed again. And at this point, there was some additional damages being claimed. So it included the sidewalk like it was in 2018, roots damaging the sewer as was claimed in 2018, as well as tree sap damaging their vehicle in this particular request. After investigation in pictures and arborists, this again was denied, and we're here tonight to hear about an appeal. So next slide, please. Some of the background, and again, I'm learning, is the city has a policy in place that demonstrates that you need to have the following criteria for removal of Parkway trees. So this is a city policy that is put in place, I would assume, recommendations from Planning Commission and ratified by council for a number of years, that a tree has to be either dead, dying, diseased, or insect infested, dangerous, damaged beyond restoration, damaging certain structures, which I can go through, or non-conforming to the existing tree master plan for the tree plan. So the following details, next slide, I will go into the city policy, which is the basis of the recommendation that comes from Public Works. So real quick, in terms of dangerous, I will kind of hit the high points. It means the limbs are growing into power lines. It means that the tree might be leaning too far and it could be unstable in heavy winds. It's experienced extensive root pruning, making it a hazard. It's blocking potential traffic control devices, or it presents some other hazard to the general public or causes a liability to the city. Next slide, please. In terms of criteria for removal, in terms of damaging certain structures, this is where it gets unfortunately difficult in the community. So the first one is sidewalks, curbs, drives, buildings, and other structures such that the cost to repair the damage exceeds the appraised value of the tree. So that's something I believe was looked at before, as well as I'll go through it tonight with regard to potential damage to sidewalks and curbs. The second one, which is where it gets, more difficult with our community, is damage to sewer and underground utility lines is not a grounds for removal, but may be considered under the resident removal criteria, which is within your purview as a planning commission. It's Public Works's position that we have to toe the line on the policy, and then planning can make the decision based on the facts and the special cases that you might consider. So proof of damage to sewer lines shall be evidenced by the submission of 3 plumber invoices denoting root blockage for at least 12 months. And in cases of damage to sewer lines, the city may provide a one-time root destroyer, which a future root destroyer will be the resident's responsibility. So that's sort of the flexibility that this planning commission might have. Next slide, please. So the basis of our recommendation is the following. It's not dead, it's not dying, it's not disease. So the triple Ds aren't met. We don't believe that it's damaged in any way. We don't believe that it's damaging structures, at least in the way that the sewer is exempt from that criteria. And it also is conforming with the tree's master plan. Next slide. We gathered a number of photographs, both from the resident, but also through our visual inspection. And I just wanted to share those with you. So this is one of the first photo is you can sort of just visualize where the tree is sitting. From a distance, you can see the sidewalk linearly as well as the curb and gutter. There's nothing, I guess, special that sort of identifies itself out of that photo specifically. Next slide, please. The next slide starts to hone in on where you can see the 2 cracks that are in the field. One is to the left side of the tree where the I would say just outside of the coping of the tree or the tree well. There is a crack there, and there's also a crack that between the tree and the coping of the tree well on the other side. Those are the 2 cracks that have come up. Next slide, please. Again, this slide sort of gives you a perspective on the profile or kind of the ebb and flow of the sidewalk itself, and visually, at least from this distance, you can't see that there is uplift in the sidewalk itself. Next slide, please. This one attempts to hone in a little closer on any potential uplift to the sidewalk. And generally speaking, and speaking with maintenance, what I learned is anything over a ½ an inch of uplift is something that is usually a grounds for having it be, having someone have maintenance grind it down to keep it from getting any larger, or to consider, sidewalk replacement in those types of conditions. So we don't have a ½ an inch or more of current lift out in the field for those 2 joins of the sidewalk. Next slide, please. And this is where I believe the location of where we have less than a ½ an inch of lift, but is the uplift in question that was brought to our attention. Next slide, please. I think we might have already had dangerous. I might have that slide in there twice. I apologize. Next slide, please. Oh, these got repeated. Next slide, please. One more. Here we go. Sorry, my apologies. Final slide is regarding the recommendations. So based on the city's policy, Public Works reaffirms that the denial came from a series of criteria that we have to follow. And we still recommend the denial of the request. However, it may be up to this planning commission, obviously, to offer or consider allowing the property owner at 10408 Gridley Road a permit to remove the parkway tree at their own expense. And I believe that might be something that has been considered in the past. So that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
I have a couple questions. When the arborist did a city's tree specialist, did an inspection in surrounding areas, it said after careful consideration. What type of how do they inspect the sewer lateral?
Okay, so as far as sewer laterals, the owners of the homes per city policy are responsible for a lateral that connects anywhere from their home to the actual main connection in the street. So the city does not inspect sewer laterals. It is not in our scope of work nor our responsibility. However, if a property owner wants to inspect the sewer lateral, that is their purview, and that's where they can provide quotes or have a one-time clean out per the policy, if that were the case. But we don't inspect sewer laterals.
Okay, yeah, I just thought you said something about an inspection, so I was curious to see what the inspection was and how it was inspected.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I think I was on the committee last time this was brought up, and to refresh my memory, are these trees protected in any way, or this certain
Only
tree?
through city policy.
Okay, that's
So the
it.
city has a policy, and again, the planning commission, whatever the chain of command is, and like I said, I've only been here 3 months. So whatever the chain of command is, if the city wanted to consider updating, ratifying, changing the city plan or policy, that would be above my pay grade. I'm just sort of trying to toe the line of our requirements within Public Works to render a decision.
And I did get some of the emails based on some of the questions that I had. I know that sidewalk that's already lifting, it's not quite half an inch yet, but that's the newer part of the sidewalk, correct? So I passed by the other day and I think I saw probably about a quarter inch, so it is lifting. But when was that piece of sidewalk replaced?
So that's where I had a subject of one of my correction emails back to the group. I thought it was actually replaced between 2018 and 2023, but it's my understanding that that stretch was replaced prior to 2018. And I didn't have 100% answer and a date on that. I'd be happy to provide that back when I find it, but I had a pretty short turnaround time in trying to quantify that information. So I apologize. I don't have an exact date.
No, I appreciate it. And then you're doing a good job. So happy 3rd anniversary, by the way. Thank you. Okay, now when we're talking about, I guess the root destroyer, what exactly is that? And will that have any effect on the tree if you destroy that part of the root? Will it affect the tree if you know?
I don't want to answer that because I don't know personally. Our arborist just happens to be on vacation this week.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, he couldn't be here this evening to be able to help address some of those technical questions.
Okay, and then like one of the things that I'm kind of having to struggle with is, yes, it's on the property. It is the responsibility of the homeowner. That goes, I know, for gas lines, water lines, sewage lines, for everything. But if it's our city tree that's going in there, and I know this might be a question for the homeowners later, but damaging cars and windows and the sewage line, having the root encroachment, having to clear it out every so often, I think we need to take that into consideration. And also if it's already coming up, so it's probably coming up slowly, so that root is pushing up again. And we do have to, this is a policy, and we do want to preserve trees, obviously, because we are the city of trees, but I don't want it to kind of impede with, the quality of life of residents either. So this is it's one of those, but yeah, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Something that wasn't in your presentation that was presented by the homeowner are several pictures of, and it looks like there was some repairs done in 2020 to the sewer lateral. And some of the, do you have the pictures? They're not,
I do. I just was provided with them tonight. I apologize. I hadn't seen them sooner. And I guess I had some questions about them. Just, I mean, again, this is probably not the venue for me to be asking those questions, but when I saw them, I didn't know if this was particular to the sewer line or if this was particular to another plastic pipe in place. It mentions front planter pipe. So I wasn't sure if it was exactly apples for this discussion where some roots had been cleared. And I apologize that I didn't have the information soon enough to ask those questions before coming in tonight, which is why I didn't opine on it earlier.
okay, yeah, we just got them also. But looking at one of the aerial views, I think it's toward the end. There's one large tree that's larger than all the other trees within 4 or 5 houses. And the sewer lines are labeled as ABS, but it looks like they're clay pipe. And there's a significant amount of roots in there, which would seem reasonable that it came from the city tree. And like Mr. Morris said, it is lifting again, but what's the policy of city infrastructure? I know there's a urban forest initiative, but I'm not so worried about sap falling on the tree only because you're not obligated to park there. I'm more worried about the sewer backup. But if the roots, which there's pretty clear evidence that there's significant amount of roots, probably from the tree, a logical assumption. What's the policy on if it damages a clay line? Are they responsible if the city's tree?
Technically, yes. The homeowner is responsible for any of the lines that go from the main line in the street that connect to the home. So yes, and it makes sense. I mean, these homes were built maybe in the 50s, tract homes. So these trees have had a long time of flourishing and rooting, and this is probably a condition that is everywhere with these beautiful trees, which doesn't make them unhealthy, but it's obviously giving an impact that you have in front of you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Eddie Perry, and I live at 10408 Gridley Road, where I reside with my wife and my 4 children that are to my right. I'm here tonight to appeal the decision by the Public Works Department to deny the removal of my Parkway tree. My wife and I, we take great pride in our home and have spent numerous hours and money to make our home loving and safe for our children. A previous request in 2018 was denied by Public Works and Planning Commission to remove this tree, which had resulted in several backups in the sewer system, flooding in 2 bathrooms each time. A CCTV inspection was performed and identified the backups were a result of root infiltration in the sewer lateral. My appeal was denied, but granted a permit for me to dig up and replace a section of pipe with root infiltration. This was at my own expense. The city, at their expense, removed sections of the sidewalk which were raised and displaced. After completing the pipe replacement, the city replaced the sidewalk. It is now evident the time, effort, and expense I put in an attempt to correct the problem was only a Band-Aid and not a solution. Fast forward to today, I am once again having backups in the bathrooms. When a rooter is used to clear the stoppage, the snake comes back with roots. I have already replaced bathroom flooring twice since 2018. I feel that this has become a safety and health issue for my family and an expense I shall not have to endure and something I did not create. The overflow of raw sewage and fecal matter on the bathroom floors is no joke and can be avoided. I disagree with the observation of the arborist that the sidewalk is not raised. It obviously is cracked and once again beginning to raise. It may be slight right now, but in time will become a safety issue as the tree and roots continue to grow. Also, there is visible cracks in the curb on either side of the tree. My wife parks her vehicle in our driveway, not in the street, and the umbrella of the tree is so big it hangs over our driveway. The tree drops sap, which damaged the roof of our previous vehicle and puts a sticky coat of sap on the windshield, which is difficult to remove. We just purchased a new vehicle and would like to alleviate the problem ASAP. I agree that this is a beautiful, healthy oak tree. It is by far the tallest and biggest tree on the block, providing shade to the house. But in reality, the tree of this size is not suitable for a 7-foot wide parkway residential street, but rather a city park or a large open area. Please note at a 2022 Planning Commission meeting, a similar tree was submitted with a much, an appeal was submitted for a tree much smaller at 9837 Bartley. The homeowner was granted, if so desired, to obtain a permit to remove the tree. Also in 2022, after much controversy and discussion of the city council, they approved the removal at the city's expense, the removal of 27 healthy pine trees on Maidstone. Reasons given why the trees were removed at the same time. Thank you. Please note the tree policy being followed is from 2000. Many of the trees have grown substantially over the 23 years. Residential conditions have changed and the infrastructure has aged. This tree policy is only a guideline. There are always exceptions to the rule. Examples are Bartley and Maidstone. In conclusion, I humbly request the removal of the oak tree in my parkway at the city's expense. The city planted this tree and should be responsible for the correction of the problem. I have already incurred numerous expenses related to the location and size of this tree. It is a nuisance for several reasons, but my biggest concern is the health and safety of my family. If the tree is not removed, it will continue to grow and so will the root system. Roots will continue to intrude the sewer lateral, creating more backups, expense, and raw sewage in our living space, which could lead to major health issues. The old saying is, to resolve an issue, go to the root of the problem. And in this instance, the root is the tree. I submitted to all of you, and thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I submitted to all of you a packet, which it shows numerous pictures of our vehicles. You can see the one picture with the large ABS pipe. So that's the piece of pipe that along the sidewalk that I replaced. And then the one that in the planner, after we replaced that section of ABS pipe, we were still having backups, and I had one area to clean out on the far side of my house. So in my front planner, I dug down and then replaced what looks like a big upside down T, a clean out. And the issues that I continuously have from that clean out, I'm having to snake down towards the street, not towards my home. Thank you, ma'am.
So I think, well, I know I have more questions for the arborist. And unfortunately, they're not here. And I think our other commissioners have questions as well for it. Just finding out today and presenting, I understand the city's view, but we need to talk with the arborist and questions on, can we do this to the tree or not? And, you know, we have from the family, but I think we need the arborist. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna make a decision like this, and I'm really thankful for you coming up and expressing yourself, but our other questions that we have to counter, there's no one here to really answer our questions for us. That's how I feel.
A question for Mr. Perry. How much of I know that it's a clay pipe system and roots love clay because there's water and they're going to go get them. Did you replace the entire house with ABS or do you still have clay piping in your property, on your property?
Additional 5 to 6 feet under my home, and then from that point, I have cast iron. And none of my cast iron pipe and the pipe leading out of my home has ever been an issue. It's always been from my front planter where I installed a clean out towards.
Okay. I know that you had two receipts where you did your own clean out in November and then again in March. Did you do anything else last year or earlier last year?
So,
Any clear outs?
no, so I have the one clean out that's in my front planter. And that's been my access point, whenever I've had backups or issues. But that's the spot where I have to do the backup. Because from my home, it goes from that clean out point where I have my backup, my bathrooms run in a straight line, and then the piping under my home runs like a dog leg that goes to the far side of my house. And the bathrooms are the first things to back up, and that's where we've always had a first well sewage overflow.
You said you had camera footage already, right, with showing roots
Yes.
in there?
So I had footage going back, recent footage, I was having issues trying to download. That's why I included an email that I had initially sent back in 2018, when I was fighting this, to Noe Negretti, where he had asked that if I showed proof of the issues that I've been having, then the city would be able to work with me. So that email I was able to send, it's been 5 years now, so I wasn't able to retrieve that data. But the agreement we had was to remove this section of sidewalk, I would do what I needed to do to go down to the pipe at my own expense, and then backfill, and then the city would come in and replace sidewalk.
Excuse me, can you come back to the site? Then we can't get it on the recording, and then Zoom attendees cannot hear. Thank you. I apologize.
Yeah, thank you for the information. Have you had a rooter or licensed plumber or rooter come out and scope the line from your sewer lateral into the main in the middle of the street?
I haven't in some time. The last time that I had that was back in 2018.
Okay.
To be honest with you, it's been such a gigantic expense. It's pretty tough to keep throwing money at it. We actually had a backup that went all the way from our bathroom. It was a month ago. It went all the way backed up and flooded in our bathrooms and went all the way back into our kitchen. And we had like 2 inches of water in our kitchen. And so the expenses of that and trying to clean everything, we have newer flooring that we're panicked to try to dry before it starts getting all warped. So it's tough for me to continue to do those things.
Yeah, I would just like to say that given the fact we don't have all the information, I'd like our committee or commission to make an informed decision. And I would like to hear from the arborist, and I would like, some type of information other than, a third party, a neutral party, just to give a sewer lateral assessment to see if the damage extends into the street and the extent of the damage. And I'd like to I'd like to move for a continuance to get this information so we make, the right decision with all the information. I just don't think we have all the information to make a decision.
I'll second.
Mr. Jimenez, second. Okay, so this is to continue to the next meeting. You put that on there or? That's sufficient time.
Yeah, and we'd also like, or I would like, a professional opinion. You seem to do some work and it seemed to be adequate, but just coming from a licensed rooter professional that deals with this day in and day out, would just give us more information to make a better decision.
So know that last month when we had that large backup I was talking about, we had a rooter who came out for pretty much a whole Saturday, and he had to run his camera the entire day to get it clear so we could.
Yeah, if you could provide us with, the results of just document what he
So
found.
some kind of written report from the findings of the rooter.
Yeah,
company would-
the
Okay.
findings and the recommendation.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I can work
We
on
have
that.
a motion on the floor in a second. Call for the roll call, please.
Is 30 days good enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez.
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Chairperson Carvajal.
Aye.
4-0.
So we will continue.
Evening, Commissioner. So item number 6 is conditional use permit case number 836. Subject property is located at 11947 Florence Avenue, Unit 4. And the applicant is Christy Tumbling. The little background on the location, the subject site is comprised of a single parcel measuring approximately 90,000 square feet and consists of one multi-tenant industrial building. The property is zone M2, heavy manufacturing, and a BP buffer parking. So the entitlement request, a request for approval to establish, operate, and maintain a gymnastics studio within a multi-tenant industrial building located at 11947 Florence Avenue, Unit 4, according to Code Section 155.243L. A conditional use permit is required for any type of recreational use. So a little background, business description. So Christy Tumbling is proposing to use unit number 4 of the subject site as a gymnastics studio. Unit 4 was previously occupied by Spirit Gymnastic under conditional use permit 687. The applicant will offer tumbling class, private coaching section, and special workshop. And it should be noted that Spirit Gymnastic previously is occupying the same unit as a tumbling class as well. So for parking, a total of 14 parking stalls will be required for the proposed use. It should be noted a temporary modification permit was approved. Modification permit number 1277 was granted previously to Spirit Gymnastic. The staff believe that since the proposed use will not have any impact on the existing parking, the existing temporary modification should remain. Here's the floor plan. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the floor plan. Here are some site photo. As you can see, the Spirit Gymnastic is still there, and they will be remaining on this property, but they will not be utilizing unit number 4. And the applicant will be taking over that portion of their business. For general plan consistency, there's 2 policy that staff believe that's consistent. The first one is land use policy 1.2, which is economic diversity. Staff believe that a recreational use is complement to the surrounding property, especially the residential use in the south. The second general plan consistency is for economic development, policy 2.1. By approving this conditional use permit, staff is retaining an existing business within the city, and that will promote diversity and retaining business. For finding, staff believe that if the proposed use conduct in a strict compliance with the conditional approval and the city municipal code, the proposed use will be harmonious with the adjacent property and surrounding use in the area, and therefore will not be detrimental to person or property in the immediate facility. The second finding, the exterior of the existing site has been maintained consistent with the contemporary industrial design, and there will be no change to the exterior of the building. Here's another photo of the building itself. It's been kept in pretty good quality. So staff believe that the continue of the use will be consistent with the general plan. For environmental assessment, after staff review and analyze, staff made a determination that the proposed use will be category exempt from CEQA, from exemption class 1, section 15301 for existing facility. Staff intend to file a notice of exemption with the LA County Clerk if the Planning Commission agree. Public hearing notice was mailed out to the surrounding property and also published in Whittier Daily News on April 27, 2023. It was also posted in the City Hall, Town Center Hall kiosk, and City Library. We have not received any comment regarding this entitlement. So staff is recommending that the project is category exempt from CEQA under section 15301, class 1 existing facility. Also recommending approval of conditional use permit case number 836, subject to the conditions stated within the attached resolution, and also adopt a resolution number 232-2023, which incorporate the Planning Commission finding and action regarding this matter. And that conclude my presentation. I have the new operator here. If you have any question regarding the use.
I have a comment question, well, because I know, he's right, I was able to attend to the red ribbon, not ribbon cutting ceremony that he had at his facility. Are you guys full operation? You got students jumping and bouncing all over the place? Yeah, it looked like a great facility. Now, it was Spirit Gymnastics, and I guess I misunderstood. You're taking over Spirit Gymnastics, or that was the old name, and now this is Chrissy Tumbling, correct? Correct. That's a new name. So is that gonna be posted on the outside, or is that kind of saw that Spirit that was gonna be no change to the outside of the building?
So Spirit Gymnastics still operating 2 of the unit within there, so they would need to the new business would need to come in to apply for a new sign after the approval from the CUP.
Okay, all right, thank you. No other questions?
What?
Dash 2023 for conditional use permit number 836.
I'll move.
Motion by Commissioner Mora, second.
I'll second.
Secretary, roll call, please vote.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye.
4-0.
Yes, the Planning Commission's approval of this item tonight will take effect 14 days after the applicant receives written notice of the commission's action. The applicant and/or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within 14 days. Oh, no.
I'd like to call upon Director of Planning, Wayne Burrell, to please present items 7 and 8.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Commissioners, members of the audience. So I will be doing item number 7 and 8 together. The entitlements before you are tentative track map 83297, development plan approval case number 977, and conditional use permit case number 813. The subject of all three entitlements is the property at the northeast corner of Laurel Avenue and Lakeland Road. Although it is shown as one parcel in the aerial, it actually consists of 3 parcels of 0.75 acre. The housing successor owns these 3 parcels and the parcel to the west. It was always the intent to develop those parcels with affordable housing. So several years ago, we changed the zoning and general plan designation to R3 PD, multiple family residential plan development. It should also be noted that those parcels are listed on our vacant residential site inventory on the city's approved housing element, at least the previously approved housing element. We are still going through the process of getting our new housing element approved. The city's general plan housing element specifically identifies the development of affordable housing on the site, and the project is described within our program in the housing element on page 5 to 14 of the 2014-2021 housing element. As with most entitlement, there was a publication in the newspaper, and everyone within a 500-foot radius was notified of the date and time of the hearing. And I'm sure that's why Mr. Perez and others are here, because of that. So the first item is the tentative tract map, and that's to consolidate the existing 3 parcels under 0.75 acre and to subdivide the airspace into 18 residential condominium units. So this is what the parcel looked like on the tentative map itself, but here's a better presentation. So again, you have 3 parcels, 1, 2, 3, and with the map, once it's approved, you will have 1 parcel. And again, this will be to create 1 parcel for 18 individual affordable for sale units. With any type of approval of a map, there are certain findings that has to be made. And it's important that as you make your decision, that the decision is made on the evidence within the staff report, the entire record in its entirety, and the findings that can be made for the project. So again, it's important that the decision is based on evidence in the record. So one of the requirements is that the parcel has to be consistent with the general plan and specific plan. There really isn't a specific plan for that particular property, but there is a general plan. And as mentioned previously, the item is listed within our housing element. And in terms of the project itself, it is physically suited for that type of development. All infrastructure are in place. So that's something to be considered. You also need to consider whether or not the project is likely to cause substantial environmental damage. Well, as we go along in the presentation and as you look through your staff report, keep in mind that this project under CEQA is categorically exempt. When you have a subdivision of 4 or fewer parcel, it does not need to go through an environmental review process. Now, that is different than the development plan approval, but this is specific for the tentative tract map. The other item before you is development plan approval case number 977, and that is to allow the construction of those 18 affordable for sale units. And this is a view of the property from the street. As you stand on the west side of Laurel Avenue, looking to the east, there's a driveway that goes to the property to the west, and I'll come to that later. This is a preview or a more up close look at the driveway. And this is another view and with the house at the corner, and I'll get to that later on too. The property has also frontage on Lakeland Road, and this is a view as of today of the portion of the property that's on Lakeland Road. Interesting fact, just real quickly, the house that you see is a Habitat for Humanity house, and it happens to be that this 18 units is for Habitat for Humanity. So it's kind of this happened several years ago, and now here we are today, and Habitat for Humanity is continuing that process. Also, I mentioned previously that there's a driveway that extends all the way from Laurel Avenue to the back, and that goes to this property. So that is a 25-unit development. At the time, it was called the Crippled Children's Society, but that's not PC nowadays. So it's just called the Lakewood Manor Apartments. Calling it Crippled Children's Society, doing that in this day and age, certainly you'll get into trouble for that. So it's been changed. But this is part of a larger project, and this came before you previously. I don't know how many of you were on the Planning Commission back then, but that was in 2022 when you had the entire project that consisted of the development to the west, the 3.95 acre property, where you have the Richmond Group creating 52 apartment units and a clubhouse. They also were doing 50 units of a senior apartments, and the Whole Child doing 19 transitional supportive housing. And of course, Habitat for Humanity doing their 18 for sale unit. So all the development, the environmental impact was analyzed under that previously approved initial study, mitigated negative deck, mitigating monitor and reporting programs. So that's why when it comes to the environmental document for this property, since it was already done, no other or additional environmental documents are required, or no additional mitigation measures are required. And this just shows you the entirety of the project on the 3.95 acre development. So this is the Whole Child, and this is the Richmond Group, 4-story, 50-unit senior apartments, 30 units regular apartments, 20-unit 3-story apartments, and of course a clubhouse. In context, this is the property as it pertains to the surrounding area. You have Amelia Mayberry Park to the south. You have Camella Elementary School also to the south. But this is in the unincorporated area of the county. It has a zoning of A1. Again, this gives you a context. And if you look very closely, you can see where the city boundary is. That's that dotted black line. So in reality, you can see a portion of the elementary school is in the unincorporated area and a portion is in the city of Santa Fe Springs. In terms of the summary, again, 18 three-story townhomes. The site is 0.75 acres. You have a total of 4 buildings in one development. Let's see. So it's a 9-unit, 6-unit, and 4-unit development for a total of 18 units. This is rather than show you a site plan, it was easier to use the landscape plan to talk about what is being proposed. So you have your 9-unit, you have your 6-unit, you have your 3 units. Each one of those have a 2-car garage, and it's important to note that that is the code requirement. 2-car in a garage or carport for each dwelling unit. So you have 18 dwelling units, you have 36 garages or parking spaces. Okay, the only distinction is that the N units, they have tandem parking, but still, again, a 2-car space for each dwelling unit. You also have your driveway, walkways, and a trash enclosure at the end. There was some consideration in terms of density bonuses. Because this is 100% affordable, there are certain deviations that they can take. And it isn't that the city has a choice on option. This is what the state has mandated. I know there were concerns from one of the caller on Zoom about parking. So the site meets all of our parking requirement, but in reality, because it's 100% affordable, they do not need to provide all of the required parking. Similar to the ADUs, where if it's located within a certain mile of transit, there's no requirement to provide any type of parking. And it doesn't matter if I do not like it, you do not like it, the mayor, the city manager, it doesn't matter. The state has said under those circumstances, if it's affordable, then city, your authority is limited. No ifs, no buts, no nothing about it. You may recall the units where the Crescent Pit site is, that came in under SB 35, and they had absolutely no requirement to provide parking. Yes, I guess they humored us and provide X number of parking spaces, but it wasn't the parking space pursuant to the code. We did not get 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. But because it came in under SB 35, and because it's 100% affordable, absolutely nothing that the city could do. But in this case, they did require some deviation in terms of building heights and building setbacks, population density. So instead of 16.3 dwelling units per the population density, they were allowed to go up to 18. Instead of 25 feet in the front yard, because of the height of the building, they are allowed to have 15, for example. So that's just one of the things that they could have done under the density bonus. Here is as if you're looking to you're standing on the west side of the street, looking to the east. This is the 9-story building with the 2-car garages at the bottom, 6-story building, the Habitat for Humanity building on that side. And this is the view from the Lakeland side. Unfortunately, we could not show the elevation or the floor plan. There's a new law that unless we get approval from the architect, then we're not allowed to show that. And I wasn't able to get approval from the architect ahead of this. In terms of the finance for development plan approval, you have quite a number of them in your package, but I would just like to go over a couple of those with you. So in terms of the first one, whether or not the proposed project is in conformance with the overall objective of the chapter, it is zone R3 PD, which is multiple family residential plan unit development. Apartments, multiple family dwellings are allowed within that particular zoning. So it is in conformance with that aspect of the general plan. Another finding is whether or not the architectural design or the appearance of the areas in harmony with the intent of this chapter. Again, it is zone R3 PD. So multiple family residential is allowed in that area. Is the structure suitable for the intended purposes? Well, that's fairly simple. The structures are multiple family residential. It's suited for multiple family residential. Another one is that consideration be given to landscaping, fencing, and other elements. When you look at the landscaping plan, the entire area between the front property line and the front wall of the building is extensively landscaped. Landscape is distributed throughout the entire development. There are 2 areas of open park-like area. So definitively there it does meet that requirement. When it comes to fencing, there's fencing in the front, but the fencing is such that it opens up the front yard to view from the public street. Finally, there's the conditional use permit. And the conditional use permit, because it's in a PD plan development overlay zone, any type of structural use within that zone requires a conditional use permit. So the DPA is for the physical construction, siting, landscaping, setback. Conditional use permit is for that particular use. And this shows you the landscape palette that gives you an idea as to the landscaping and the type of trees. And this is the park-like open space that I mentioned previously on the east side of the 9-unit building. It's also the same on the south side. So as you can see, the site is definitively extensively landscaped. Finance for conditional use permit. One is that the location, siting, and arrangement of uses, buildings, structures, etc., shall be coordinated so that it provides convenience, safety, and a high standard of design. So I'll take all 3 of those and speak, well, actually all 4 of them. So one thing that we did, the same architect that designed the project across the street, it's the same architect that designed all 3 buildings. So you have some continuity from across the street to what you see in terms of the design, the roofscape, etc. So all of it will blend in. What we did try on the north side of the 9-story building where Mr. Perez's building or his use is located, we try to move the building as far back as possible so that Mr. Perez, you won't have this big massing of a structure close to his home so that it will create some type of shadow onto his building. So we did take that into consideration. Again, in terms of environmental document, we are relying on the previously approved initial study mitigated negative declaration mitigation monitoring and reporting program. And we are looking at a categorical exemption for the track map. And the recommendations are, rather than repeat every one of them, it's as stated within the staff report. So before I conclude, I know that parking is an issue for everyone, but keep in mind that we're limited as to the mandates that are imposed on us from the state. Although it states in your staff report that we did not receive any comments, that is true at the time that the information went out to you, but we did receive comments about parking, not only in terms of whether or not there would be sufficient parking, but the striping on the west side of the street. A lot of that area is striped. I can't go back to it, sorry, but it's striped. Am I going backwards? Okay. But a lot of that is striped. Jimmy, is there an aerial that, okay, maybe I'll use this because I don't have a close-up. So a lot of this area, when you look at it on the west side, someone essentially painted the curb red. I've checked with our Public Works Department and our Police Services Center. We don't paint curbs red. We enforce our parking by signage. So you would have signage on one end of the street and on the other, well, on the same side of the street. So you'll have no parking and you'll have an arrow, no parking and an arrow, and that area in between, you cannot park. So that definitively was not done by us. It probably has to do with the property owner in that area. And the properties that was mentioned by the young lady on the phone, those are apartments. They're not in the city of Santa Fe Springs. They're in the unincorporated area. So we cannot impose our requirement in that area, whether or not those individuals choose to park in their garages, we can't enforce that. So all what we can do is enforce our requirement. But what I have explained to Mr. Perez and anyone that wants to have the red curb removed or have additional parking on the street, there's a process involved where they submit a letter to Public Works, and then that is taken up with the Traffic Commission. If the Traffic Commission do not agree with the resident, then ultimately it goes before the City Council and they will decide whether or not we can have parking on the street. But it's all policy that when a development comes before us, you have to provide all of the parking within the development. The idea is not to use the street for additional parking. So that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions from the Planning Commission? I know it's a lot of items to go over and quite a lot of information.
Done. None?
I got one. I know that, so we're gonna be enforcing that the car parking for the residents, they're gonna keep it in the garage, correct?
That is correct. Because it is a condominium, there are CC and Rs that are required, similar to the villages. We have that requirement, but I think Louis will tell you when it comes to enforcement, it can be a little difficult. We have to rely on the homeowners insurance. Homeowner association.
Yeah, and then also, I know that there was some additional parking, but how many more extra spaces are there on the property?
There aren't any
None.
additional, they just meet the requirement for code. There aren't any as some apartments where we have guest parking. There isn't any guest parking here.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yep.
So, there's how many, 36 parkings altogether?
Yes, so there are 18 units and the code requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit.
They're a little different, right?
Yes, the corner ones are tandem,
Yeah.
so they're longer, but it still provide 2 parking for those units.
Are there any other questions or comments? This will be the time for deliberation. Is there a motion to
Oh.
approve?
Excuse me, before we do that, I don't know if Mr. Perez would like to speak. So,
You'd like to speak, Mr.
yes,
Perez? Go ahead.
since it's
sir.
a public hearing.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Hello.
Can you state your name and address for the record? sir?
Hi, my name is Joe Perez. I live at 10932 Laurel Avenue. Thanks for having me this evening. So I just wanted to touch on, I just want to say, first of all, I'm really happy that this project is happening. I think it's going to be a real improvement to the neighborhood, and I am really looking forward to it. My only concern, as I was explaining to Wayne, is parking. And there is on the west side of Laurel Avenue, there is a red painted curb, and I measured it this morning with my odometer, and it's about 2/10 of a mile. And with the current parking, I'm sorry, with the current residents from the apartments, that overflow of parking it is really starting to become congested in the areas of curb parking that are allowed. So I was telling Wayne, we really could use that red curb space for our neighborhood. You know, just like the new residents that are going to be here in the 18 unit development. If somebody comes to visit them, they're going to need to park on the curb. And so I would just encourage the powers that be to allow that red zone area on the west side of the street so that we can use it as parking in the neighborhood. Because the commercial businesses, it's right in front of commercial businesses, and they don't need that curb space. And I can't see why they would need it, why they have to have that space cleared every day. But it would really be useful parking for the residents. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, Wayne? So on the red, were you saying since we're building two different developments, are we gonna take off the red for them?
The red that Mr. Perez is talking about, if you were to go, so you're on Florence, you heading south on Laurel. There's a length on the west side of the street, and I think Mr. Perez says how long? 2/10 of a mile, and someone has painted that red. So no one parks in that area, but it isn't our Public Works Department and it isn't Police Services Center. But because it's painted red, nobody parks there.
So, but it's not on the developments where we're
No,
building? Oh,
there
okay,
is
somewhere.
a portion that says no parking between 8 and something on Fridays, and it's for street sweeping.
Oh, okay.
So Kwang, go north, please, all the way north. So see all of that?
Yeah.
All of that is painted red. But we didn't do that. Maybe when they installed the landscaping, they painted it red. But again, in speaking to both Public Works and Police Services Center, we do not do that. And those are the apartments that the young lady was talking about and Mr. Perez was talking about. You can see all the cars that parked there, but we don't know how that was done, but we could certainly bring it up and talk to Public Works again. But again, our policy, even then, for those businesses, they have to provide all of the parking within their development, not on the street.
So that's all Santa Fe Springs side?
Yes, on the west side is all Santa
So
Fe
if
Springs side.
we approve this development, don't you think it's fair to, since there's no parking, at least get rid of the red that shouldn't be there?
Well, but I don't have the authority to do that. That's in the street. This is independent of what you're approving today.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, no, we could certainly talk to Public Works about doing so, but it's in the street, so that's,
Yeah.
in terms of the Planning Commission, our authority ends on the private side, but anything in the right of way, it's Public Works.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any other? Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution number
Oh,
231?
excuse me, Madam
Yes, sir.
Chairperson. I think Kwang said there's somebody in the audience who,
Would like to speak?
oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, so back to for environmental document, initial study, my gated negative declaration, development plan approval, case number 977, conditional use permit, case number 827, and resolution number 233-2023 for tentative track map number 83297. Can I have a motion?
I'll move items number 7 and 8.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Jimenez, Commissioner Mora. All those in favor?
Aye.
So ordered.
Actually, it has to
Roll
be a
call.
roll
Do
call.
we need a
vote.
roll call on
Yes,
that one?
ma'am.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you so much. Okay. So that one, number 8 is gone. That was pulled with this, right? Okay.
And I can make my statement now.
Go ahead, sir.
Madam Mayor. The Planning Commission's approval of this item tonight will take effect 14 days after the applicant receives written notice of the commission's action. The applicant and or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within 14 days.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so now we're new business. We already did that. Number of times. Consent items. Alcohol sales conditional use permit, case number 78, compliance request report for alcohol sales conditional use permit, case number compliance request report or alcohols. Oh my God, I'm said this someone, I apologize. Continued operation and maintenance of an alcoholic beverage use involving the warehouse and distribution of alcohol beverages at LA Grill Baskets located at 13724 Street within the heavy manufacturer M2 zone, LA gift baskets. For consent number 10A, is there a motion and a second for the approval of item number 10A? Do we have a motion?
Move.
Commissioner Mora, do I have a second? Commissioner Ayala. Okay, and Ken, oh, sorry, yeah, I like that name on you. Okay, may you call the roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye,
4-0.
thank you. Okay, we did the attorney one, we did the new bit. The next one. Okay, announcements number 11. Are there any commissioners that have an announcement that they would like to share?
None from the seat.
No announcements?
I hope everybody has a safe Memorial Day weekend. Go ahead, sir.
Wish all the moms happy Mother's Day. And I want to say thank you for Sister City for hosting the volunteers. It was very much appreciated. And that is all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry, staff. Mr. Kwan?
Hi, good evening. Just really quickly, I wanted to bring to the commissioner's attention, there's a workshop on Thursday in regards to the objective development standards. Just to kind of go over the history of the development standards project. It was a project that was utilizing SCAG received grants. The city received REAP funds to do the ODS project. You'll recall that back in July of last year, we had a joint study session where we presented the initial project guidelines to you for initial feedback. There was also a workshop done in July of last year where we also got feedback from the public. This Thursday will be a second workshop to provide the public and anyone interested an opportunity to view the draft standards that we have created, and also offer any comments to those standards. The workshop is at 5 p.m. on Thursday and will be available here in the council chambers as well as on Zoom. So we'd just like to invite the commissioners, anyone in the public who would like to attend to be present on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other stuff? No, okay. So announcement. None. Gabriel.
None.
I think we did that,
We did
but I
that.
did it. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm on medication, John. Adjournment, I would like to adjourn the meeting at 7:25. Thank you.